Hello, this is JJ Humphrey on Elephant in the Room. We got my major friend, the big Trump supporter, going to vote for a felon. If you look at Bob, stand up, turn around, let us look at that T-shirt.
I don't know if it'll do that. Let me see.
Let's look at that T-shirt, Bob. I like that T-shirt. I'm voting for a felon. I got it. All right, awesome. Hey, Bob.
Yes, sir.
Hey, we got a lot to talk about today, and I'm just going to jump straight on in there because I know it's a subject that me and you have talked about for as long as I've known you. We've talked about this educational deal, so I know you know a lot about it, and I do know a little bit about it. So just want to jump right in there. And so for our listeners, most people ought to be aware right now that they came out with a letter to more or less investigate. There's some are saying also impeach. I think he came back and said, no, it didn't say impeach. It said investigate. And then the speaker came out and said, you're going to have to get 51 signatures, 51 sign-ons to do an investigation. And then he went out with a letter. Now it's funny, they're saying all of this got leaked out. It didn't get leaked out, Bob. They put it out. They sent it to everybody. What did you think? It got leaked out when you sent it to 80-something people and said, do y'all want to sign on? Yeah, that's the biggest leak in the history of time. You know what I'm saying? And do you think they didn't do that on purpose? You think they didn't put that out there on purpose? So now we have something going out saying you're going to get 51 signatures. Bob, they knew they was never going to get 51 signatures. Now, they knew that right there. And then they come out and they say they got 25, and they leak that out to the media. Bob, from where I'm sitting, it looks like a smear campaign on our State Superintendent Ryan Walters. What do you think?
Well, it sounds like that. If they don't really have the speaker's not going to give them based on what I understand, the right to pin anybody on this particular situation. But the way I understand it, and you can kind of maybe explain it more, they do not have the authority to investigate a criminal activity. They think there's criminal activities taking place. They don't have the authority to even investigate it.
Well, Bob, I think they got the authority to look into it. They can't file charges. They can report it to the AG, but they can look into it, but they can't do nothing about it. They have to have the AG.
From what I've read, is they cannot do it. Period.
Well, Bob, they did it.
Criminal. I'm talking criminal.
Well, we looked into Swadley's barbecue. They put together a whole committee on that. That was all criminal. We did one on the health department. That was criminal. I was on Swadley's barbecue. So they can do it. They just can't file charges. They have to refer it to the OSBI or to the AG or to the local law enforcement. So they can look at the numbers. They can look at all that, gather all that up. But then they have to take it over to an actual investigative team to do an actual criminal investigation.
Well, have you heard yourself? Have you heard of anything that's illegal that they've said?
Here's the deal, Bob. They've already Speaker McCall has given them 2 or 3 subpoenas already on stuff. So guess what? They've been looking at Ryan from the day he took office. This group has attacked him legislatively, as well as subpoenas and all of these kind of things. And to my knowledge, if they found anything illegal, the biggest thing they've got him on that they're going after on him right now is they're saying the security. So we passed a bill to put security into all your schools, and I think that's about $90,000 a year. And what we said, they could roll that money. So if they didn't use it all this year, they can roll it to next year. Well, then they got to looking, and the law says you can't do that. So we passed a law that was illegal. And so he went back at last session and he said, hey, y'all gave me the authority to do this. We told all these schools they could do it. They've been doing it, so they didn't spend this money that they would have spent, and they're about to lose all this money, which is going to make them uptight. And we need y'all to fix this. Well, guess what they did with it?
What?
Absolutely nothing. And my understanding, he wrote and asked for a legal opinion from the Attorney General on that.
Who's he?
Ryan. So Ryan asked the Attorney General. So Ryan called McBride and said, hey, there's a problem. And in fact, I'm pretty certain if you talk to people on that board, so on that committee, I know people on that committee, and that's where I've learned this. They say absolutely. Ryan got a hold, said there's a problem. We need to fix it. They could have fixed it. They buried it, didn't even bring it to the committee. Ryan wrote the Attorney General. We still don't have an answer, my understanding. And so now everybody's blaming it on Ryan. It ain't Ryan's fault. It's the legislator's fault. And again, I'm not blaming it on the AG, but he needs to come back and say, hey, this is what you can do and can't do. And is Ryan right? And he's not doing that, it don't appear. That's my understanding. That's their number one complaint. And so, again, what it looks like they're purposely not hearing this bill purposely not trying to fix something so that it looks like Ryan's fault when in reality, from what I know, McBride is the one that should have took care of that. If Ryan brought that, and it's my understanding he did, and brought that to their attention, they had all legislative session to get something wrote saying we can waive this, or we're going to take that money and they could have rebudgeted whatever's left over. We're going to take whatever's left over and rebudget it back into this. And, there's all kinds of ways to fix that. But again, our budget people, mainly being McBride, and again, that could have went up to our A and B. I don't know whether A and B, but anyways, whoever was responsible would not do that. It does look like that it was just a sabotage move on him. And so I got no use for that. Second thing, they're saying Open Meetings Act. Bob, I sued the daggum DAs not too long ago for violating Open Meetings Act. We actually won that case. You hear them saying anything about that to the DAs? And the DAs are supposed to be the top law enforcement people who are tasked with keeping the Open Meetings Act. They're the enforcers of making sure that records are kept. They violated it. You ain't heard a thing. A whole bunch. You don't hear them say a word about any of that. And yet, man, they're going to go after him on something like this. It's just unbelievable. I cannot believe what we're seeing. And what I can't believe is how the community gets so headlong upset without the facts, and how these people just, you know what I'm saying, propaganda facts. They roll out there and try to make him look bad. You ain't never seen, hey, CNN ain't got nothing on these guys right here. I swear, it's so aggravating to watch this crap. This is why people don't like politics right here.
Now you're saying that there was 3 people names on that list that actually they didn't confer with, so they could use their name. Is that correct?
Bob, I know of at least 3. I think there may be more. So so our listeners know, okay, Speaker McCall said, nope, you're going to have 51 signatures to get this. He comes out and leaks this out and has 25 roughly signatures, I believe. Well, I know for fact, in fact, Ryan announced that Ross Ford was one of them the other day at his press conference. And here's the deal. My understanding is Ross didn't tell him he wouldn't sign it. What he said, I want to know more. I want to look into it. I'm not signing it till I know more. He didn't tell him, hey, I'm not going to, is my understanding. I think he said, I want to know more, which is an appropriate, great for Ross for saying, hey, before I sign on to anything, I'd like to know what I'm signing on. And is there anything at all here? And I ain't signing on something that ain't nothing. You know what I'm saying? If you got some goods, try it out here and show it. Guess what? I'm the same place. If they found Ryan breaking the law, violating law, guess what? Then I'm going to do what, this week, Bob, I wrote a letter, op-ed out about Todd Hyatt. And Todd Hyatt went to, so for people who know, Todd Hyatt is a corporation commissioner. And Todd Hyatt went to a national convention, got very, very intoxicated, and unwantedly touched a person's genitalia. And so he fondled the guy, basically. And anyways, it made the news, and he come out and he apologized and said he's under stress and using alcohol for stress and was so drunk he didn't know what he's doing, I believe is what he said. And he said, I'm resigning my chairman position. He didn't resign his elected position. He just resigned as chairman, which means he stays right where he's at. He just got a little less work to do. That's unacceptable, Bob. That's unacceptable. We charge people for those kind of crimes. They go to court, they get arrested, they get, in fact, a lot of people for stuff like that get sex offender charges and things like that put on them. And again, it ruins their lives. And yet this guy's going to go, oh, well, I was just drunk. It's okay. And I'll just keep my position. No, he needs to be more accountable than anybody else. And so I called for him to resign. That'd be the honorable thing to do. Or that if he forced me, I would ask for him to be removed from office. Now, guess what? I had no problem And again, if he needs some help with getting in treatment, if he needs some help with, overcoming his alcoholism, I don't hate Todd Hyatt. In fact, I'd help him every bit I could. I mean, I think that's the way we all should be. But yet there's consequences for your actions. So if Ryan does something wrong, if Ryan's done some illegal activity, fine, we can hold him accountable. But where you got this bunch from the minute he came in, sabotaging him, doing legislation to sabotage him, doing, subpoena after subpoena. And again, I'm okay with subpoenas investigation. But Bob, if there's not another person in the planet that knows like you do, if there's any person who knows how much work I have done and asked for subpoenas on the Department of Corrections, and I had turned in rape information, I have turned in locking them, human rights violation, locking them inmates in 2x2 cells, holding them there for days at a time. I've turned in information about wrongful firings, turned in information about whistleblowers, firing whistleblowers. I've turned in information about stabbings, extortions, murders, falsified numbers, money hid. Me and you found $43 million hid in there. Now, all of that, Bob, how many subpoenas has this administration given me to look at stuff on Department of Corrections?
Zilch.
None. Zero. And I've got mountains of evidence. So why are we going after Ryan Walters with subpoena after subpoena, and I can't get one on DOC at all? That's the stuff that I'm talking about. That's the stuff I find sickening up there at the Capitol. That's the stuff I get tired of. Is again, I don't have any. Now, I know a lot of people may not like me at the Capitol because I expose stuff. I go after stuff. I just say what I want. But, Bob, I don't have anybody that I hate at the Capitol. I like everybody up there. And again, when you shine light into the dark places, they get mad. You know what I'm saying? You go to shining light in them dark places, they get mad. But the bottom line is when they'll cover up all the dark places. And from what I've seen, now I think Ryan could do a better job of working with his administration on communication, getting money out to the schools, getting the proper tools out to the schools. I hear that from all the schools. So if we want to go on something, let's find a way to help him get that done, and let's talk about that. But when you go in and you say, "Oh, look here, he's withholding this money from the schools," and you know good and well that he came to you and asked for you to fix that, and then you're going to come out and that's your number one thing you're going to squall about. Wow, you know what? That's sickening. That right there is just really poor. And again, I'm basing that on people that sat on that committee telling me that's what happened. So, I people that I have way more confidence. I have zero confidence in Mark McBride. Zero confidence in Mark McBride. I've been up there. Bob, you were up there. I've not seen McBride do anything in the entire time. This is the first time McBride has woke up to do anything since I arrived up there 8 years ago.
Well, what about when Hofmeister was in office, that she ran her election right there that the state had to pay her employees running an election, and all the information right there. But most people have an office away from the Capitol. They don't do it at the Capitol's expense.
Bob, who did you say?
About that.
Who'd you say? Who you talking about?
Hofmeister.
You mean Hofshyster, don't you, Bob?
Well, Hofshyster.
Joyless Hofshyster. She took the joy right out of my life. Hey, Bob, here's the deal. All joking aside, Joy Hofmeister, and I put it out in the paper. So Mark McBride was the chairman of the budget education at the time, same position he holds now. I put it out in a paper. I sent it to the election board. I sent it to ethics. I sent it to the sheriff. I think I sent it to AG. I don't know who all I sent it to, but I had evidence that she had used her personal computers, her employees, other equipment right there at the State Department It's called embezzlement all day long. That is embezzlement. Guess what? Did McBride ever even blink an eye on that? I mean, I can tell you he never even contacted. He never even contacted. Bob, let me tell you another thing. And I think the people of the state of Oklahoma ought to just be up in arms on this. They ought to be up in arms. Here we see them going after Ryan like they are. Bob, Epic, and no matter where you feel, if you like Epic, the ideal behind Epic, I don't have a problem with. I do have a problem with them giving state money to a school that don't have to meet all the standards. How you gonna make all these schools meet this standard, and this one meets nothing at all, and yet they get state funding? So again, I have problems with that. I'm a public education man all the way. I'm not so fond of this one because they flunked at a 75% flunking of their students there for quite some time. And so that any other school would have been shut down. So here we got a school that should have been shut down. They still are, or let's say allegedly, because they have not been convicted, but they have been charged. Bob, Epic was charged with taking somewhere around $52 to $55 million out of the State Department of Education. Embezzlement, I would assume. I don't know the exact charges. They got, I think, 10 or 12 charges apiece, 3 of them. Now, let me ask you something, Bob. Do you think there is any way that these 3 individuals could take $55 million from the State Department account and nobody over here at the State Department was aware? If not, they ought to be filed on for criminally stupid. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if you're that stupid that somebody could steal $55 million right out from under your nose, you need to be charged for lazy, stupid. But I don't believe that, Bob. I believe that they were probably engaged in that because that's what makes sense. Okay. And yet, did McBride $55 million? Now, have you heard any amount of money? Have you heard $55 million on Ryan? I hadn't heard anywhere near $55 million. And McBride, we got to do something. This guy's going to run the state. He's all up in arms. $55 million taken right out from the nose of McBride. And guess what? He didn't flinch. Bob, I come home one time. I'll never forget. I used to have this basset hound. I had this old basset hound. Man, he had ears that just hung out just all over, long old ears. And I come home, that basset hound was laying out there on his old belly. His old ears was like that. He's laying out there, son, and he's asleep. There's a big old snake, big old chicken snake come by. Bob, I swear that chicken snake went right by this dog's nose. Rubbed this dog's nose. I would not have believed it. Dog opens his eyes and never moved. Dog sat right there, never moved. That snake went all the way by him. His snake's at least 5 foot, 6 foot. Went all the way by him, and this dog never flinched, never even bothered, went right back to sleep. You know what, McBride, that dog reminds me of McBride, because guarantee you, here comes $55 million right past him. He never even opened his eyes. He never even did one thing, And then you turn around, Bob. I don't know if you'll remember this, but boy, I got all up in arms over them closing the school down there at Swain. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
So I did all this investigation, got all of these letters showing I had state representatives, former state representatives, law enforcement. I had all kinds of stuff where these people had said they'd come to them, talk them into getting off the board. I had evidence that they called lawyers and said, hey, what if we close this school? 2 days before this even happened, they go, what happens if we get 2 board members to quit? I'm like, what? Are y'all clairvoyant? Anyways, long story short, Bob, they illegally closed the school, and I got the paperwork to prove it. And then guess who shows up like the next day when nobody knows the school's fixing to close? Guess who shows up?
Who?
Ben Harris, the guy that they now have charged for Epic, shows up. Now, I've got a board member, one remaining board member, shows up to the one remaining board member and says, hey, we want to buy this school. And his board member's like, no, the State Department would never allow that. Oh, yeah, they're going to allow it. No, the State Superintendent, Joy Hoffmeister, wouldn't allow that. Now, and here's the deal. I have this statement in writing. So the guy's name, he's a retired highway patrol, and he did 2 terms with the sheriff's department. He was the sheriff for 2 terms and then resigned. He didn't have to. He just, he retired. He didn't resign. He retired. And so here's Lewis Collins, highway patrol retired, sheriff retired, writes me a statement saying Epic showed up to buy this school when nobody even knew yet that it was going under, and told him we got Joy Hoffmeister in our hip pocket. Wrote that on the statement. I got that statement. And then when you add that with all the other stuff that I got on that illegally closing that school, guess what? I turned that over to the OSBI. I turned it over to a whole lot of other people. Guess what? Nothing done on it. And again, Mark McBride, did he raise a finger on that? And you know how I know they all knew that happened, Bob?
How?
You remember old JD? She's a female legislator. You remember a little short blonde gal? Really nice. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Can't remember her last name. Really good. Did the devotionals every Tuesday for a long, long time. Anyways, she passed a bill where they could not do that anymore, where they couldn't close a school like that, fix that problem. She had passed a bill and fix that problem. And so I know they do. I know they know all about the problem, but did they lift a finger to help me out in southeastern Oklahoma? Did they lift a finger to stop Joy from breaking the law? Did they lift a finger to say, this looks pretty iffy with Epic coming down here and all the other problems with Epic that they knew was going on at that time? And then we find out they steal $55 million allegedly. They still ain't convicted. Bob, I could go on, with like we talked about, all the stuff she did running for governor, illegal. Bob, I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember where she tried to hijack Title IX, which is the title that allows girls sports? So this is how girls play against girls, and this promote women's sports. And she was trying to push transgender in under Title IX. And I called her out. Nobody else got on there with me. I called her out and I got her to stop. I outed her to the media. I outed her to the pastors, and again went after her. But here's my question. Where was all these people when all this is going on, especially Mark McBride? Mark McBride has used this. I mean, he's made going after Ryan his life mission. And Bob, I want to tell you something. I called Joy joyless. I call her Hofschuster. I don't think anybody ever went after superintendent as hard as I went after her. But guess what? When I say that I've got proof, guess what? There's 3 people up there charged. Guess what? I got a whole documentation. And Bob, you know how many letters I sent out and asked for signatures to investigate?
How many?
That would be 0. Bob, have you ever seen me investigate DOC?
Yeah.
I've done a whole packet like that on rape. I did a whole deal on the shower situation. I'm handing stuff all the time. How about the DAs? Have you seen the investigation I've done on the DAs?
Yes.
I mean, unbelievable. I got them like you would. I just turned over an investigation on OMMA. And in that investigation, I went back, got documents where the director had come out and said the reason she fired 30 people was because that she was no longer collecting fees, that fees are down. Well, you know what's funny about that, Bob? We appropriate her budget. She don't get fees. She lied. She went out publicly and lied saying, I had to fire these 30 people because our fees dropped. That's a lie. She actually got an increase on her budget. So I went out and showed that. I went out and showed that one of the divisions, the departments that she fired people on, was 97% white, and yet she fired 100% of black people that worked there. So again, that's the numbers that were given to me. That's the numbers I turned into state audit. I've got a thumb drive with massive, not using purchase orders, turned in all that many times where we had warned them and they still kept doing it. Looks like I've turned in stuff that looks like the CFO was trying to do business with the company his wife worked for. I've got that. I've got where they fired 2 people who turned them in on that. So I've got all kinds of stuff. Met with state auditor, books. We've got it put together. Thumb drives. We got it all put together. Guess what? It's all there. I didn't pass one letter around and ask for help. And Bob, you know this for sure. You remember when I started that? Do you remember when I started looking at OMMA?
No, not exactly.
Well, I don't know if you'll remember about a year ago, I asked you if I could use your house to beat some people over there because they were scared. And that was before session started last year. I've been meeting with these people. And when I stayed with you a couple of times, I run over and met with them, if you'll remember, throughout the entire year. So I've been meeting these people for an entire year, working with them, staying up till night, staying out till 10, 11 o'clock, getting all this stuff done. Guess what? I didn't go get a whole committee. I didn't go sign a bunch of letters. And I put together, and I want to say, guess what? I've helped them put it together. I've helped them put together a really good package. I put together a good package on the district attorneys on fraud during the same period of time. I'm fixing to come out with a huge deal on the DHS. I've been working on DOC, all of that at the same time, not counting my work with what we've done with the Turnpike during all of that stuff. So again, why does Mark McBride need this many signatures? Why does he even need that? He can do it, and he's chairman of that. He can do it without all that. It's a smear. I think, Bob, it's a smear campaign.
Well, I know that they've been after him for a lot of different things. He's trying to do, and a lot of times trying to do different things, but he's got to do something different because we're like 48, 49 in the state, in the nation.
Yeah, I mean, what do you want him to come in and do? Obviously, we got some problems, Bob. Obviously, and again, I don't know. He gets in a lot of trouble like I do for saying stuff, and it's old saying, people who live in glass huts ought not to throw stones. So I ain't gonna throw no stones on somebody saying something inappropriate. I say stuff inappropriate, but apparently, like the other day, he called one of his superintendents a clown, and I don't know the superintendent, but my first question is not, I don't immediately go, well, Ryan is sorry. You know what my first question is, Bob?
What?
Is the guy a clown? My first question would be, why did he call him that? And here's the deal. This is what I don't understand. And Bob, I'm not the most highly educated man. I ain't, you know what I'm saying? But when somebody says something, my first question is, how do you prove that? I went to a meeting the other day with the detective. He got a little offended because he made a statement that it's overwhelming evidence of brutality. Overwhelming evidence of brutality. I said, well, if it's overwhelming, it should be easy to write down a couple of pieces of those evidence. Why would you say overwhelming and then not say, Bob, if I go arrest somebody for public drunk, I've got to say, here's how I established they were public drunk. They were unsteady on their feet. They were slurred in their speech. They were bloodshot eyes. They had the odor of alcohol. They couldn't say their ABCs. Whatever you want to use. Their face was flushed. There's a million things you can do to describe somebody drunk. And so you say, this is how I knew they were drunk. You don't say, well, here it is, and y'all take my word for it. And again, what they're saying, he called him a clown. Okay, if he called him a clown, was he justified in calling him a clown? Or was he unjustified? And if so, Ryan needs to make the case for calling him a clown. They need to make the case for not calling him a clown. And then also...
Well, he's a public figure.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. I get a lot of slack for calling Joyless. I called Joyless Hofschister on the floor. Oh, they lost their minds. They lost their mind. But here's the deal: I ain't backing up. And if you want to ask me why I call her a shyster, we'll go back to the fact that she was arrested for illegal campaign, and guess what? It was dismissed. Go back to the fact that Epic stole $55 million under her nose, and do you think that she couldn't have been involved in it? No way. Go back to the fact that she closed the school illegally and wrote a 36-page letter closing the school, all kinds of legal, got 6 months worth of notes for superintendent and the board, and got the resignation letters on the same day, wrote that 36-page letter on the same day. And oh, by the way, the meeting didn't happen until 7 o'clock, didn't get over till 8. So they wrote that. They got all this evidence. They got a call at 8 o'clock at night. Their lawyer rushed into the office at 8 o'clock at night, put 36 pages of notes together, gathered all this up in the middle of the night, and had it back out. And by the way, you can check and see when they emailed it. You get a stamp when they emailed it the next day. That is amazing. You know what I'm saying? And so here's the deal. Do you think she wasn't involved in that? Bull. And I've got it all. I've got all that documented. Again, you want to know why I call her a shyster? I can tell you why I call her a shyster. She illegally closed that school because she was mad at them. She wanted them closed. You know what I'm saying? She illegally used her office to campaign. She tried to push transgender down. Those are just a few things. She's woke. She changed from Republican to Democrat. I could go on all day. I can tell you why I call her a shyster. Now, that's what they do.
KJ, do you believe, without a doubt, that if Ryan were a Democrat and doing these very same things that's happening as a Democrat, would it be making the headlines?
No. Bob, you bring up a great point. Let me see. Hey, Bob, let me see if I can find this. Just hold on. Let me see how functional I am on my phone, Bob. Let's see. You bring up a marvelous point. Okay, I'm going to read something. I had it kind of saved on my phone. I'd lost it, but I got it back, Bob. This is Channel 9 interview with Mark McBride. Channel 9 interview, live interview, when asked if there were political motivations behind the investigation. Now, catch that. They asked him, when asked if there were political motivations behind the investigation, McBride said he thinks they played a part. He thinks they played a part. That means political aspirations, political motivations played a part in the investigation, as different political figures and potential gubernatorial candidates are involved. So he's saying, yep, politics played a part, and different political figures are potential gubernatorial candidates. That's what this is all about. That's what he's saying. Now, who are those? Let me ask you a
question. Hang on here.
Yeah.
Did Walters announce he was going to run for governor?
Did he announce it, or did they say that he's?
Well, it says here that Walters yesterday held a press conference accusing me of attacking him. This is just two people, but he had released that he was running for governor.
I don't think he said that. I watched that interview, Bob. I didn't get that out of the interview. I think what he said was, I'm going to concentrate on what I'm doing right now. And I'm not, he didn't say he wasn't running for governor, but what he said, that's why they were attacking him, is because they thought that he was running for governor. That's what I got.
Well,
but bottom line, they think he's running for governor.
He did announce it. He's running for governor.
Okay.
In my opinion. But
Bob, what difference does it make? If he announces he's running for governor, he ought to be able to announce he's running for governor. He ought to have the same right. They shouldn't be able to weaponize their position to come after and investigate him. And what Nimrod, Bob, what Nimrod would say that? What person would go out and go, yeah, it was politically motivated. Yeah, we're using our office. We're using the chairmanship to go after him because there's two people that will run for governor, and that's what this is all about. And again, when McBride says that, I don't know whether, I'm not accusing Charles McCall of doing it, But I'm going to tell you, it looks bad when your chairman goes out and says 2 people are running for governor, and that's why we're going after this guy. It makes it look like he's doing it straight from Charles McCall. I mean, that's what it looks like based on what he says. I'm not saying that is, maybe he just spoke wrongly. Maybe he's a dimrod, just spoke immaturely. I don't know. But who would say that? Who would say this in politics? Anybody with half brain would go, "Oh, no. We wouldn't use our position."
Did that reporter that asked the question, did they not ask anything after he gave his answer?
Oh, yeah. And then he follows up. I think it would be handled differently if it wasn't a potential candidate for the governor's office race, McBride said. I think it would be handled differently if it wasn't for. Wow. So, Bob, I didn't look it up, but we could go look up election interference. And I think if you read election interference, it will talk about, if I'm not mistaken, y'all go pull that up. Just go Google and say, bring up statute for election interference. Normally, when you think of election interference, it's somebody blocking somebody from getting to a booth, somebody not allowing people to view that are there to view or something like that. That's normally what you say is election interference. But you can also have election interference, if I'm not mistaken, down towards the bottom part of that, it will talk about people interfering with candidate or something like that. So here's the deal. When you have a chairman weaponizing his office to prevent somebody from running for a political position, smearing them, accusing them falsely, using their position just because this guy's announced that he's going to be a gubernatorial candidate. Hey, that's illegal in my opinion. I mean, I think it's a misdemeanor. Y'all go look it up. I'm not a lawyer. I get the lawyers disagreeing with me all the time. But again, if it ain't illegal, it ought to be. It's pretty darn sorry. And that's what this guy's come out and said. Bob, seldom do you see me speechless. I'm just speechless on how stupid that is, That is criminally stupid. I can't believe that anybody would actually say that, even if they were doing it. I can't believe they'd openly admit it right there on the news media. And another thing, if you watch, then Wallace come out and said he's going to, go on a loft. Well, here's the deal. Wallace may be the chairman of loft. So the budget people are the chairman of loft. Okay. So you have 2 chairmen. That's the state, the Senate, and the House side. Okay. But now, if I'm not mistaken, you have to have the entire committee vote on that. He does not have the authority. It's my understanding I'm going to be calling for loft. Well, guess what? If I'm not mistaken, Bob, Loft just got through looking at the entire education department. What's Loft going to come out and do? Oh, we were stupid and we missed everything last time. Now we're going to go back and find it, or especially when they're getting that kind of pressure and they go find something that they just got through looking at and missed. That don't look, So why are we just finishing Loft looking at them, is my understanding. And now we got the budget chairman. And I would tell you that if I was him, I'd be concentrating on my race and not worried about all this. Personally, I would think, because I think he's got a pretty tight race. If I was him, I'd concentrate on winning my race and not get him and jerked off and all this. I surely wouldn't come back and ask for an investigation on something that's already been investigated. I surely wouldn't call for something that's already been done and then say we're going to do it when it takes the whole board, is my understanding. It should take the whole board. This is the problem. They have weaponized their offices to go after a person in another office. It's another Republican. And the main thing they don't like, Bob, what do you think the main thing they don't like about it?
Transparency.
Transparent, but he's going after woke. He's going after these, you know what? We couldn't get a 10 Commandment bill passed like Louisiana did. We couldn't get it passed. They killed it in the committee. Wouldn't even let it be heard. Would not even let it be heard. I've tried some hocus pocus, some magic, some political magic. I sprinkled the magic dust all over Guess what? They still killed it, even though I tried very diligently to get that before the people. They killed it. Guess what? Our porno in school, all these books that should never, ever, ever think, oh, you're trying to take books out of school. That is a lie. No, we're trying to take porno out of school, not books, porno, graphic, sexual, explicit content that should not even be allowed. Hey, I don't need to see that, much less a kindergartner or 6-year-old something. We are trying to do that. Guess what? That made them mad. What made them mad is when he said, come after all the woke, took all that. When he went after, hey, Tulsa school, worst reading scores, not in Oklahoma, worst reading scores in the nation, he called them out for it. They're mad about that. He's calling those things out, and they're mad. And look what they got. My deal is what y'all got. After 2 years, and you have had subpoena after subpoena, and you have tried to train wreck him after train wreck after train wreck, and guess what you got? That would be a big old fat nothing. Oh, we think he violated Open Meetings Act. Fine if he did, tell him how he did. Like I said, I've got it written down how Joy Hoffmeister violated that. I've got it written down that a former legislator, I've got it written down me, so a former legislator and me and a state superintendent, and I've got all those recorded or written down that, yes, they violated the Open Meetings Act by talking to some board members outside of that board and talking them into resigning and going in there and plotting how to kill this school. Guess what? I've got those written documentation. Now, if they investigate it, they may come back and say, well, JJ, we don't think you've got enough. Wow. But at the end of the day, I've got way more evidence than they do. Did they lift a finger to look at anything open meetings violation? No. Did they look a finger to see about closing a school illegally, falsifying records? Some really bad practices on putting money and things, using money out of so you have a bond and you can't use that money for anything, commingling that bond with another account and using money out of that account, illegal. Guess what? Got that. You know what I'm saying? Now, I don't think they used the bond money because they didn't spend it, but they commingled it and they wrote checks out of the account. It's not the way you do business. I don't know if that's a criminal, but it's definitely a bad practice. Caught them doing it. They claimed they were broke, found 300, caught them hiding money and all kinds of things. Did McBride ever even acknowledge it? Never even turned around. Never did nothing. Him and his girlfriend, Joyless, got away with everything. Didn't do nothing. And so, you know what? And I shouldn't say girlfriend. I don't have. But, man, I mean, you want to talk about he attacks me on the floor for calling her a name. He goes after me. He defends her. Bob, let me give you an example of just how bad this is. Ryan, they went after him for spending $50,000 on media stuff. Okay. Now, Joy over here has 16 media people, is my understanding. I'll guarantee you, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong. Have you ever seen any of them media people up there at one of these agencies that weren't paid at least $90,000, $100,000? They'll be paid on up there. You know what I'm saying? So here you got 16 of those folks. And that's not including their full package. So I'm saying somewhere between 1.5 and $2 million. I'll be pretty close. Now, here's our people. The House comes after him for spending 50 and tries to censor him when she's over here spending $1.5 million to $2 million. That's just one example of just the gross negligence of these people going after him. And if you looked at that report that I was talking about that I read a while ago, most of that report, McBride is just mad because Ryan's getting so many interviews on Fox News. Why is that going to make, I mean, who cares? Who cares? And the deal is, he's spending all this money going on Fox News. Bob, I've been on Fox News. I've been on Newsmax. I've been on CNN a couple of times. Guess what? I did 90% of them either right here in this office or right up there in my Capitol office. You know what I'm saying? I never flew out there, got in their studio. I never went personally. So them acting like he's gone all the time, going here, going there to just get on Fox every day. He ain't getting on Fox every day. I don't see him all the time on the news. He gets on there occasionally, and again, that's the news cycle. But why are they upset? I mean, he spent a good portion of that interview just being upset because he's on Fox News. What's that got to do with the price of eggs in China? Nothing. If that's what you got to crap about, shut up and go home. Shut up. If you got something,
well, he was using state money to do political issues, and what I understand is maybe not every agency, but I would say the majority of agencies are doing the very same thing that he's doing, and there's nothing said. But he does it, and it's a real big deal.
Bob, I mean, you've been with me personally. I've got DOC, I've got records to show that DOC is not truthful. We've got records that they put out. Hey, we're 1 to 5 officers, 1 officer to 5.8 inmates. 3 months difference. I got them on the radio saying it's 1 to 15. So I'm coming in and saying, hey, can I get something, a subpoena to show the accurate? When in reality, I'm sitting with some paperwork that is from them that I don't want to come out forward and say how I got it, because again, this is how bad things. I had to sneak around to get proof of stuff, and then I can't say how I got it and all that. But the thing about it is that those papers seem to indicate that the number in reality, at least at one prison, is more like 1 to 140 or 1 to 170. Now, those are alarming numbers. When if we're one to 5.8, they said we're the worst in the nation with that number. When in reality, it's not. 1 to 5.8 would be awesome. We would love it if we had those numbers. Yeah. It's more like 1 to 140, 1 to 170. Bob, I'm telling the truth, and I'm asking for subpoenas. Hey, don't take my word for it. Let's subpoena these 4 prisons. Let's get these records and let's see it for ourselves. No, we can't even get those records. I cannot even get.
We got people dying.
Yeah, you got people dying, extortion, rape, murder, all kinds of stuff. And guess what? I cannot even get that. The director shoots his floor. Bob, you can't make this stuff up. He shoots his floor. I asked for records. Did you have the proper training? Are you qualified? Did you go through the proper qualifications? Can you carry that gun all the time? Oh, by the way, did you go through the drug test? Did you go through the recalls and all the stuff that you have to do that is required for you to do that? That's a legitimate request. Guess what? Couldn't get it. I asked for records to show that he actually left the shotgun in the back seat. Bob, these are things that would get any other employee.
He denied that.
Oh, yeah, I denied all of it. And these are things that would get any other employee fired. And during the same period of time that I'm asking for that, they demote a person or maybe even fired them for eating a piece of pizza that the inmates had brought in, and they joined them and ate a pizza on some of their religious deal or whatever it was. They had somebody brought in some outside pizza at one of these meetings, and I think one of the employees ate it, and they were looking at canning them or demoting them. You remember that, Bob?
Yes,
They're
sir.
going to do that while all this is going on, and he doesn't. You can't even get a record on it. He gave himself a $90,000 raise, Bob. $90,000 on top of $185,000. He admitted he transferred that from his old job to that one. You cannot do that, Bob. That is not legal. I looked it all up. I asked him for clarification. Give me who authorized you to give yourself a $90,000 raise. If he can't do it, he embezzled $90,000. I've asked for subpoenas on it. $90,000 direct, easy to prove. He got it. He's admitted he got it. All I'm asking for, who approved it? If nobody approved it, it's embezzlement. And guess what? I've not been able to get one. I've asked for it multiple times, subpoena. There you go. I mean, documented, done deal, subpoena on that. Guess what? I ain't got it. Now, you want to talk about way more evidence? Nope, we can get them all day on Ryan. Can't get them on Harp at any time. Something bad wrong. There's something bad wrong on that, Bob.
Yeah, I hate change the subject, but you see where our friend who is handling the computer, the communications in the state,
Yeah,
What's his name?
Jim.
No, no, he was a representative. He got out. But anyway, I just noticed here where he got a $90,000 raise. He makes it $203,000 a year now.
Oh, Sanders.
Yeah, Sanders, and he's a good
Sanders
guy.
is over. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, Bob. They're giving these raises like they're candy. And here's the deal. I like Sanders. I get along with Sanders. And if he's got a document saying this is who authorized that, I may disagree with that. I may go, by damn, why don't somebody? Here I am. I'll tell you what, we make $48,000 with no retirement. $48,000, no retirement. We pay in our own retirement. And I'm over all their budgets. I'm over all this, and I'm making 48. And this, and here's Harp with no experience, no training, no nothing. He's got the worst performance record ever in the history of that. And he's making $90,000 raise, getting a $90,000 raise. And you can't even get the records. We're not even allowed to check on it. And that's what I'm saying. I could go on with DHS. I could go on with OMMA. We could go on with all of these. You can't get nothing, but if they can get.
So you're basically saying there's a lot of corruption going on in the Capitol.
Listen, Bob, I turned in OMMA last week. I'm going to work on some stuff on DHS this week. I'm going to turn around as soon as we get done with DHS. I'm going to turn around and deal on the DAs. That's coming, I'll guarantee you. And then we're going to see if we can't top it off before session starts with DOC and show all the corruption in those four agencies. And again, I turned over to the state auditor a big packet the other day on OMMA. I'll probably do a news release on all that, and then we'll turn around and see what we can do on DHS.
What do you know about this? I'm happy to share that I'm starting a new position as Board of Governor member at the American Correctional Association, Steve Hart.
Yeah, I figure that's just a little extra duty thing. They get in all of those. A lot of people thought that he was going to terminate his position and go to that. It may be, I don't know. I'll have to check it out Monday. But most of the time, you get appointed to this board, ACA. You don't, it's not that you resign this position. That's just kind of a feather in your cap, makes you look good. But here's the deal. This guy's going to be over something in corrections, has zero experience in corrections. Look at his track record since he's been he's been the biggest nightmare we've ever seen in corrections. And now some national organization is wanting him as their board member. Wow. I just tell you that they hadn't done their homework.
Well, you know, the interesting thing is mistakes after mistake after mistake. We're getting people killed. Guys break into another person's cell and kill them. We're having that. We're probably leading the nation right now in the number of deaths in a prison. Last year we were number 2, but we're probably
we were 2 last year. We're probably number 1 this year
because it just continues to happen. And why does it happen? Why does it continue to happen?
Well, Bob, and why can we not ask? You know, I mean, here we're working our butt off. We're putting together records. We're not just saying this outside of our mouth. We're not just trying to do what they're doing and go find something. We're not setting him up to do it like we've got them doing. You know, we're not lying about how many people we get on a signature or anything like that. Again, we're coming straight forward with lots of records showing the problem. The newspaper's backing us up. I mean, you know what? Every day in the news, they're backing us up with all these stories. And again, it's not us making this up. And we're asking for subpoenas and can't get subpoenas. And yet look at all the stuff they're ready to drop down when they just finished the law reports, my understanding, get another law report. Let's go get another investigation. Let's go get a letter and investigate him, start a committee to investigate him. That's after we've done all these subpoenas and couldn't find nothing. And let's not look at this bill and fix this bill like we were asked to, and then blame it on him. And again, here's the deal, Bob. Am I holding Ryan up to be St. Ryan? I'm not. Does Ryan got some problems? Yes, if you go out here and talk to these administrators, communication, they can't get their money. They can't get information. They have to get something from him to be able to do something. He won't get that information.
But did they have that problem before? That money got to them ever no problem before in the history?
Oh, yeah, they've had it. But again, his his is pretty bad, and maybe they're just more mad because of all the stuff. But he's got some issues he could work on. But Bob, here's the problem: can he work on them? Can he work on them issues when they're hammering at him every 5 seconds on all this other bullcrap? And that's the deal that I would tell our administrators. I hear you. If you want to write a letter, I'll get with you. But let's write a real letter at what's really wrong with real ideas, how to really fix the problem, because some of them are easily fixed. I've got ideas where we couldn't have some of these problems again. Real legislation that fixes problem. Wow, what a thought. What a thought. Unbelievable. But that's not what they're doing. This is a smear. You bet you. And here's the deal. How do I know it? Because McBride went out on Channel 9 News and said, if this guy wasn't running for governor, we wouldn't be doing this. We would be handling all this differently. And the fact is, we have 2 gubernatorial candidates, and that's why all this is happening. Now, that's what he said. I challenge you to go pull up Channel 9 News, read it for yourself. I read it to you. That's what it said.
I don't think Charles McCall had anything to do with it.
I'm not blaming Charles. I will say that Charles put McBride in there, and again, I think that was a bad choice. And so if I'm gonna blame Charles for anything, it's some of the people that he put in positions around him. And again, I know that I make everybody mad, so I understand. I got corrections, and that's my wheelhouse. I don't care. I didn't ever get put on any top kind of committees or anything like that. I did get put on swaddling. But, I didn't get very many appointments because people are aggravated at me. But, Bob, when you put light on the darkness, they don't like it. When you put light on the darkness, they're going to hate you every time. Good example, you know what? Best man ever walked the face of the earth, they crucified him. So the thing about it is that's what we're seeing. And, again, I when I see this kind of stuff, I've had it done to me, and I get mad, and that's why you're seeing me come out and speak up about what the issues are. And again,
I appreciate you talking about this important issue here that nobody else talks about.
It is important. Bob, we better get off here. We're a little bit over time. I appreciate you, man. Catch you later.
Bye.